Jiang walked up to the boss's body and stared at it. He couldn't believe he had finally won. Just then, a system window popped up to congratulate him for leveling up. Now he was at level 14 with a power rating of 127 stars. His passive abilities and level up effects were still active. Jiang clenched his fist, which started to glow. Looking down at it with a smile, he thought about how his strength kept growing as his level increased. With 127 stars, his combat power was almost equal to that of a level 25 professional in the combat class. He started to turn his head back, thinking that now he just needed to devour the monster corpses to gain devouring points. Seeing how powerful Jiang was, and sensing the power of the mother insect, the small spiders began to flee. These intelligent monsters knew they had no chance of defeating Jiang. He turned his head and saw the little spiders fleeing, realizing there was no longer any threat. It quickly became clear that the spiders understood the situation and were escaping. Although he wanted to kill them for points, he decided against it, as the most important task now was to start breeding insects. He began walking towards the monster corpses, and gradually, Little Nine started to appear through the poisonous mist. With a deadly look, Jiang stared at the boss's corpse, clenched his fist tightly, raised his other hand towards the sky, and told Little Nine that it was now hers. When she heard this, she thanked him and changed back to her natural form. She opened her mouth, jumped, and moved toward the boss's corpse. She started devouring it, and a system window appeared, giving him 600 devouring points. As Little Nine enjoyed her meal, Jiang turned to the side with a serious look, thinking that elite monsters like this boss were different because they provided a high devouring value. He quickly concluded that hunting and rapidly breeding the insect swarm was a good way to become stronger and hunt more elite monsters. Moments later, another system window appeared, showing that his devouring value was full. The system asked if he wanted to start the insect breeding. Jiang looked at the system window and was amazed to see how quickly the devouring value had filled up. He soon realized that elite monsters gave many more points than normal ones. After a few seconds, Little Nine returned to her human form. She knelt before him, placing one hand on her knee and the other on the ground. Then she bowed her head before him and told him that Little Nine was already prepared to reproduce. She asked him for permission to continue accompanying him with much stronger power. While Jiang's body emitted a powerful aura, he turned his head to the side and remained silent for several seconds, lost in thought. He turned his head towards her, smiling as he decided it was time to begin breeding the insects. Just then, a system window appeared, informing him that Little Nine had already initiated the first generation of mass insect breeding. Jiang's and Little Nine's bodies began to emit a wave of energy. The system notified him that the accelerated growth of talents and the blessing of the growth of all things were in effect. With a serious expression, Jiang began to look at Little Nine, thinking to himself that his passive skills were more effective for speeding up insect breeding. After a few seconds, the mark of Little Nine appeared on his hand. Seeing this, he quickly realized it was a new ability. His assumption was correct as a system window appeared, granting him 2 new exclusive abilities called Insect Nest and Dominion. Then, another system window appeared, informing him that the insect breeding had been accelerated, with 8 seconds remaining. Seeing this, Jiang realized that the insect breeding was almost complete. He lifted his head towards the sky, and what he saw in front of him shocked him. He couldn't help but be amazed and wonder if this was a colony of insects. In front of him stood Little Nine, with both hands extended to the sides, reproducing itself. In an instant, thousands of insects appeared and began flying around them. The system congratulated Jiang for successfully completing the breeding of the first swarm of insects. According to the system, there were a total of 2,300 insects. Jiang turned his head to one side, observing the insects with a smile, as he thought that the quantity was truly impressive. He couldn't believe that the first breeding cycle of the insects had produced over 2,000 offspring, and this was only the first generation. He wondered what would happen in the 3rd or 4th generation. One of the insects approached Jiang. Sensing its presence, he turned towards it and began to caress its head. He had a fondness for these insects. However, their abilities differed from Little Nine's. He observed that the insects had also gained some new skills. The insect status window appeared, named Son of 9 Wings of Miasma, boasting 4 abilities. The first was Poisonous Mist, enabling it to corrode and devour everything it touched. The second ability was Camouflage, enabling it to blend in by reflecting its wings. The third ability, Frenzy, continuously consumed the devouring value, temporarily boosting strength and speed. The fourth and final ability was called Self-Destruction. This ability enabled it to detonate its body, releasing toxins and causing massive damage in the process. Jiang found the Camouflage and Self-Destruction skills quite useful. While lost in thought, Little Nine approached him from behind and hugged him. Closing her eyes, she smiled, capturing his attention. Hearing her voice, Jiang snapped out of his trance, turning his head slightly towards her with a smile, feeling at ease. He shifted his body towards her, gently stroking her head, and thought with a smile that she seemed to have changed, but not much. Little Nine closed her eyes, placing her hands on her chest, and with a joyful smile, informed him that she had finished the process of breeding the insects. Then, she took Jiang's arm with both hands and expressed her desire to rest. Hearing this, he asked her what she meant by resting. At that moment, her body began to disappear. Jiang turned his head slightly towards his hand, feeling somewhat confused as he wondered where she had gone. At that moment, a system window appeared, informing him that Little Nine had returned to the insect nest. Jiang looked at his hand, couldn't help but smile, and felt relieved. The system space was incredible. It could accommodate swarms of insects. Now the number of swarms didn't matter. They could all hide within the system, so Jiang would no longer fear being discovered by anyone. The insect nest was a new ability he had acquired, granted at maximum level, meaning it couldn't be leveled up. Jiang activated Little Nine's mark, looked at his hand, and saw that she was peacefully sleeping. He understood that after reproducing, insects needed to sleep. Jiang recalled his newly acquired ability called Dominion, and decided to test it to see how it worked. He extended his hand to the side and activated the skill. Instantly, his body emitted a powerful and suffocating energy, and his eyes began to shine. When Jiang activated the ability, the insects by his side turned their heads towards him, fixing him with a murderous gaze. Jiang reciprocated with a murderous look, understanding how the ability worked. He extended his hand towards the sky, and it began to absorb the insects. This new ability enabled Jiang to control the swarm of insects. He turned his head towards his hand and realized that using this skill was as easy as moving an arc. With his eyes shining, Jiang looked ahead in amazement. Through this ability, he could also tap into the senses of the insects. Now Jiang could perceive the world as insects did. Looking around, he saw the place teeming with monsters, hidden and ready to stalk their prey. Jiang turned his head to the side and, observing the behavior of the insects, couldn't help but smile. He realized they were also excited. With a determined gaze, Jiang and the insects fixed their eyes on the monsters. Surrounded by Little Nine's poisonous mist, Jiang ordered them to attack, testing their new abilities. Hearing his command, thousands of insects demolished a nearby building into pieces, grabbing the attention of all the monsters in the area. Their plan worked, drawing the attention of all the monsters nearby. They turned their heads towards the source and slowly started approaching to investigate. Jiang decided not to wait any longer and went after the monsters. Surrounded by Little Nine's poisonous mist, he advanced towards the monsters, who soon realized what was about to happen. They attempted to flee, but it was already too late. Just as they prepared to escape, the poisonous mist swiftly closed in on them. Within seconds, the mist enveloped the monsters, gradually corroding their bodies and inflicting immense pain. Before long, all the affected monsters succumbed to the poison and collapsed to the ground. With the monsters now deceased, the poisonous mist began to consume their bodies slowly. Jiang approached the corpses and scrutinized them closely. With the swarm of insects, he hardly needed to take action himself. The reach of the poisonous mist had expanded significantly, devouring its targets more swiftly and extensively. Moreover, he now possessed shared vision through the ability called Dominion. Common monsters could no longer conceal themselves from the swarm of insects. Jiang turned his head to the side, observing Little Nine's poisonous mist slowly consuming the monster corpses. A smile formed on his face as he realized that soon he would be able to breed more insects. He recalled that he hadn't checked how much devouring value was required for the next insect breeding. With this in mind, he opened the system window. Upon seeing what had appeared on the system interface, Jiang was shocked and began to ponder what was happening and what it meant. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video.